decisions are made. We know from past experience that when decisions change, when there's a change in direction, there's a cost associated with that, both in financial terms and in terms of time. And so we want to work together to make sure that once a decision is made, we move ahead and we get building. We can see, the benefits of moving ahead. We see the Eglinton Crosstown, the success that we're having in that build, and we want to make sure that we continue to make those investments and get those results. We also talked about policing, and we talked about the reality that both at the municipal and at the provincial level, we're looking at modernization. How do we, and in the case of the province, how do we make sure that police oversight is renewed and is modernized and works in the way that it's intended to? And at the municipal level, there are changes being made in line with making sure that we have the right resources in the right places, so that we do the prevention work and the traditional policing work that's necessary. So I continue to be convinced that it is very important that the provincial government work closely with our municipal partners. I had an opportunity to meet with Southwestern mayors just last week, and again, every region of the province, we live in one Ontario, but every region of the province has particular challenges, and so it's important for me to have these ongoing conversations. So I'm pleased to have the mayor here, and I'll let him make a few remarks, and then we'll take your questions.
Well, thank you, Premier, and good morning. I will just reiterate really what the Premier said about partnerships, and I think the best single example we have of that that is presently unfolding is the SmartTrack Regional Express Rail Partnership, where what you have is a concept the province is investing very heavily in, namely regional express rail, to make better use of these tracks and expand service available to people throughout this region, complemented and augmented by the fact that we have SmartTrack overlaid on that, where, make no mistake, some of the stations that were announced last week would not have been happening in terms of allowing people inside the City of Toronto to use rail to get to other places inside the City of Toronto, were it not for this coincident development of both SmartTrack and Regional Express Rail. And that partnership is solid. We're making great progress with it, as evidenced by the announcements last week of the stations. We continue to work well on the myriad of issues that always exist in big projects like this. Similarly, we are continuing to work on other transit expansion projects, and we did discuss this morning the Bloor-Danforth East subway extension. We're obviously proceeding ahead with that. We are very gratified at the fact that the province supported a substantial amount of money coming into the relief line project, so that we could get on with a lot of the designing and other kinds of research work that have to be done on that to make it a reality. And that's just part of a longer-term process that is going to take longer, because that project was further back in the queue. With respect to policing, I had the chance to brief the Premier on the Transformational Task Force report that came out just about a week or so ago, and the fact that I think that is going to lead to some very positive changes in terms of modernizing policing, using technology better. We discussed some of the ways in which the province, I hope, will help us with that in the context of technology and personnel to help manage traffic and things like that, that are not the kind of police work most of the time that police officers themselves want to be doing. And I'm just optimistic that a lot of these kinds of changes we will make on policing, together with participating actively in the provincial oversight discussions, will be very positive for our community, and I'm sure for other communities across the province. So bottom line, we continue to work well with this government, and I will tell you this as a final comment. When I speak, and I'm often in the presence of provincial and federal ministers now at a lot of different things to do with transit or to do with policing or a whole host of other things, and when I say to people that the three governments in this country are working well together, that is the line, more so than any announcement we have about money or about projects, that earns their applause, because I think they were waiting for a day when the three governments could work together in partnership to actually get things done. I think if there's any complaint people had, it's that we all spent too much time either debating each other or debating somebody, and we didn't get enough done, and they now are very happy at the fact that we're working together and getting as much done as we possibly can in a very tangible way.
And just on that, we were just at the TFSA, the Financial Services Organization, last week with Minister Morneau, and that's exactly what the leaders in the Financial Services Organization said to us, is that having this alignment among the leaders of the three levels of government is extremely helpful. So I will just ask you for your questions.
Mayor, did you discuss marijuana with the mayor this morning? Because I know you told us in the past that it's up to the municipality to enforce municipal bylaws to do something about the 100 illegal drug dispensaries on city streets.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it, and you know exactly what I have said about it, and so we're waiting for the federal regulation, and in the meantime, I know the municipality is looking at what they can do.
I can only say that the one option that wasn't acceptable, not just to me, but I think to the people of the City of Toronto, was the notion that nobody should do anything, as we saw the number of marijuana dispensaries go from 20 to 100, and I don't know what number it would have ended up at. And I would only say this as well. If the federal government had chosen to do something pending their new legislation, which I support, to regulate dispensaries, that would be fine with me. If they wanted to do it now, it would be fine with me also. But in the absence of that, we felt that we had to take some action to investigate licensing, which is all that is going on. And I sort of similarly asked the law enforcement officials if they would take a look at what they thought they should do, but obviously understanding I have no control over that. I don't direct the police or the zoning people as to when they go out and inspect or enforce the law. They do that of their own accord. So I would just say that the one option that was not acceptable to me, because I'd heard from retailers and I'd heard from neighborhoods, was just leaving things the way they were, where we had an exponential increase in the number of these dispensaries. It just wasn't a satisfactory way to do business, and not a satisfactory way to build a great city.
Or come to an agreement on allowing other revenue sources for Toronto, like the hotel tax, parking tax, as well as what you've asked for in the past, a photo radar?
We discussed that briefly this morning, and the Premier reiterated her cooperative approach with respect to the hotel tax, which I think she previously indicated to you upon request, which I think we've made in writing, and we've written a letter. But and we've discussed some of these other measures. But again, may I reiterate what I said last week? We are at the City of Toronto level working first on expenditure control and expenditure management and service delivery models that can do better for the taxpayers and the citizens of Toronto, make sure they have excellent services at the lowest possible cost. And we're going to complete that work over the course of the summer. We have a full report now on revenue enhancement options that are available to us, but we will not really address that until we've got finished with the expenditure side of the budget. And that work has commenced last week, as you know. I beg your pardon? Well, again, the issue of technology being used in school zones is on the table, and maybe the Premier would like to speak to that.
We did explicitly talk about that in the broader context of policing, and I said that we're supportive of the notion, particularly of school zones, and I think that's the specific request at this point. And I think that if that's the way the city wants to go forward, I think that that's a good idea.
Premier Wynne, I'm wondering.
I'll go here and then I'll come to you, Randy.
Premier Wynne, I'm wondering, in light of the recommendations of public accounts about the F Express, the government is looking at trying to do something different, whether it's handing it over to the TTC or having the TTC more involved in its operation. And Mayor Tory, I'm wondering what you think about that as well.
In terms of the Up Express, well, again, that's not a conversation that we had this morning. And as you know, we have changed the fare structure on the Up Express. As you know, many people are using it, and I'm thrilled about that, because I think it's a very important service in terms of this city as a world-class city. It's very important to have that linkage. So I'm very pleased about that. We didn't talk about anything further on the Up Express.
Mayor Tory.
I can only say to you that the fact that we didn't discuss it perhaps indicates, how far along we aren't on having any discussion like that, and it's not a discussion I'm seeking out. I will tell you, I was on the Up Express again not more than a week or so ago, and I was talking to a lot of the people who are now using it as a commuting service, and they're choosing to do so, and they're very happy to have the option. I was very happy that day and every other day I've ridden the service with how it's being operated. And I think that, that suggests that we should just wait a period of time, in terms of sort of establishing what more might be done to make this even better. But right now it's a great service. It is being used by people. They're happy with it, and I'm happy with it. And I wasn't seeking out, and we didn't even discuss it this morning. So I think that indicates, yeah, exactly. We have enough things to worry about.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, it's going to require millions in subsidies that clearly weren't intended to be put in
So
place.
we understand that, and we understand that that is an ongoing discussion that we have to have internally. But I think in terms of service to people in the city and to travelers coming into the city, it's a very important linkage, and so we want to find a way to make it function as well as it can. And I think we're well on the path to that now.